Welcome to Bonehead Weekly, and we have a guest this week, and I'm going to introduce him as my friend and friend of Scarefest, Jake Godbold. How are you?
Fine. You?
Honestly, I'm a little pissy because the big computer crapped out, and I'm sitting here trying to use my laptop, but the camera's off and over here, but we're all good.
Gotta get
Other than
yourself a
that,
Mac.
I don't want a Mac.
Well, you should.
He's anti-Apple.
I am.
He's had a fight with Steve Jobs.
Most communists are, so it's all good.
If by this you mean communist, when I think of myself as anti-Apple, I truly actually think this, I'm more anarchist.
Well, I think the thing about it is I think he's being kind, saying that you could be a communist. You're not invited to any parties.
Oh, political joke. Chad, you haven't said anything.
I've just been letting you all go.
Where are we going?
To hell if we don't change our ways.
We were trying to get everything ready, and I was like, oh, Jake's on, yada, yada, yada. And then my computer crapped out, and I was texting back and forth and messaging, and couldn't send in an email, and I forgot to put a link on an invite, but Jake got the link. I don't know why you two didn't.
It would not play with me.
Because you all are on the same invite?
I know. I looked, Joe. I tried.
I know. I'm not arguing. I'm just, you all understand my mystification.
No, I assumed I had been fired, and I was like, what am I going to do without the immense income?
Which leads me to my second point, James. I read it half-assed and was like, oh, shit, James got fired. That means he's not going to do the show tonight.
Oh, no. I didn't.
That was the second thing I thought of, or the first thing I thought of was you weren't going to do the show.
I'm glad you were concerned about my welfare and my family's welfare, and not your first thought being.
I was concerned they may be on welfare.
Oh man, we'd make way more. That's terrible. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, he's not lying.
The take home. The take home and the benefits. All right, Jake. So how long?
Real quick, one question. James, you have a PhD, right?
Well, allegedly. No, I do. Yes.
Okay, so is it true you can't say I was wrong?
No, I can totally say I was wrong. I just can't say it I can't say it within the field that I work. So if you ask me something about education and history, I have to be like, no, I'm absolutely right on it. But no, I'm wrong all the time. I'm less wrong than Joe or Chad is, though. It's a scale.
Well, James Randi will be proud. All right.
It depends on what he's talking about, whether he's less wrong than James or Chad. I was waiting for Chad to defend us, but clearly he's going to leave us in the...
I'm not. There's no defense there.
You said that wrong even. You said James or Chad, and I was like, I'm James. And okay.
Yeah. Also, when I sit there and actually inserted a scene from The Ref into Gremlins, I can't argue.
That's... Okay, yeah, you did do that. You did
do
that. Yeah. And by the way, you have this disembodied head thing going on with a light. Did you get a specific light that only shines on your head?
Something like that.
Because it's like it's just... Well, I'm not talking about you, Jake. I'm talking about Chad.
Oh. Actually, it almost looks like an album cover.
I know.
Because on my screen, you all are side by side.
In all fairness,
like a great album cover.
He stole my thing. This is my thing. Going in the dark, using my right monitor as my light.
You don't know that for sure. Jake
he stole my thing.
Years.
Oh, see, now the band's already breaking up. We finally get a good album cover, and Chad's already causing issues.
Listen, it's time for us to do our Monty Python fights. Anybody following this on Twitter?
Yeah, 7 years. I saw that.
I know 7 years, but he went off about. Did you read the rest of it about him going off about who manages the company that manages the Python income?
No, I just saw
it's Terry Gilliam's daughter, and he was like, "You got one Gilliam, you're screwed. You've got one Gilliam is hard enough. Two Gilliams, they'll bring down the fucking company."
Well, I saw though, like somebody did something about how did Cleese and who was it? I forget. It was Palin get along, and Eric Idle just said, "Oh man, Cleese bullied him all the time, and I feel really bad. We never said anything about it." Like we never took a stand for him. And I was like, man, all of a sudden, I'm glad I'm still on Twitter because it's just fun to watch. I was like, oh, I thought, yeah, okay. Everybody hates everybody all the time. All right, cool.
Well, our guest is Jake, so I suppose I should get back to that, and we'll talk about a topic in a second, but I have a couple of questions. How long have you, and I should know this, and I think I know this, but I don't know for sure. How long have you been going to Scarefest? And that's where we
This
met, by the way.
this year will be my 11th year.
11 years. And this is
Yeah.
this year 16, 15, 32?
I have
Hut, hut,
I
hut.
think it's 16.
Yeah,
I gave up on the numbers. I just focus on mine.
I've been to every single one of them. I don't know what
I
that
know
says about me.
that you really like Scarefest. I didn't
I
discover
tell you,
it.
it was the first backyard convention. James, right? I remember
Yeah,
when
because we
I
used to have
remember
to
when we
go.
went to get the tickets. We went to get the VIP weekend tickets, and they were sold out, and we had no idea they'd be sold out. It was at Chuck's store, Chuck and
Yeah,
Patty.
yeah.
Well, that wasn't your first convention.
It wasn't my first.
No, but
I
it
was
was
gonna
the
say
It was
first
the
one.
first one within our backyard.
Yeah. Wonderfest was our first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chad took James. Actually, all three of us. I'd never been to one before. James had been as a kid, and Chad, did you ever
Yeah.
been?
No, that was my first one.
I used to do Star Trek conventions. Because I'm
That's
cool.
a fucking shocker.
Because I'm cool like that. And so
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I mean, but and that's it. I think, and this is credit to Scarefest, and is that they really do a great job of bringing in a lot of different time periods and artists and things like that. And so it's But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so you've been going 11 years,
Yep.
and I'm trying to think of a way to ask this question without being too cliche, because it's a pain in the ass for you. Don't live here, so it's a pain in the ass for you to get here. You refuse to work it because you say you go to have a good time. There's been several people have tried to get you to volunteer to save you money in their defense over the years.
Well,
Or Wes
all
has that
fair-
whole line of hang around long enough, we'll put you to work. He's right.
well, in all fairness, I did move there for 2 months, but shit happens. Vet your roommates, people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's my go-to response to volunteering. I want to have fun. So
I get it. I have the
But-
easy job.
but in my defense, by being a typical lowly customer, I keep you guys honest. So
Honest about what?
just basically like, I give you the truth, what went wrong and what didn't, and what went right. Comments.
The adults in the room do pay attention to that stuff. I am not an adult, so I don't actually, but I do know what you're talking about.
And I am.
No,
I walk around carrying this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Hey, we're
I was
gonna-
gonna say, I
James,
noticed
go
your
ahead and
name
ask
was
about Mini C.
No, I was gonna say I saw your name was Mini C Gets Us, which I appreciate, and so I thought it would be apropos. So has Mini C been to every Scarefest as well that
He
you've been to?
has.
That's what I thought.
Every Scarefest, every con I've been to, he has been by my side. That's the one constant that I always have had.
The loyal companion that is our Lord Cthulhu.
I've
Well,
never been sure with Mini C.
I'm just his advocate. So yeah, he gets more tail than me. Fucking bastard.
That's
you
true.
You think I'm kidding?
No,
No.
I have seen lots of ladies line up to get their picture with your stuffed animal and not you.
A mini cleavage he has been shoved into.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
So James, you want to ask the question? If you don't, I'm going to.
Well, go ahead.
Why? When did it start? Why him? Why the stuffed little animal Mini C? Mini Cthulhu for the people out there listening and not watching us.
Stuffed animal. It's not stuffed
God.
Okay, long story short, I got this as a gift for a friend, and that friend no longer became my friend. So I went on my trips, and I started bringing him along and photographing him with various people. Now, when I started going to cons, I was getting ready to meet Stan Lee, and I put my bag down and I they said no props with him. And I put him in my bag, and then all of a sudden I hear, "Is that Cthulhu?" And I turn, and it's Stan Lee, and I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, can I hold him? He's so cute." And I'm like, "Can you?" And you can see that and that's just been my thing ever since. There's an addendum to this story, but I'll
Sure.
bring up. But I'll save that for later.
Oh,
But
you have to save it for later. I'm enjoying it now.
well, you'll see when I get to it. Trust me.
When
I'm
we get
selling
to
the I'm
right.
selling the drama
I got
for
it.
you and all your fans. By the way,
Thank
hi,
you for
Barb.
making the joke.
By the way, hi Barb.
Hey, Barb and I hit it off. We're buddies.
I gotta tip my hat to Barb. In less than a year, she has accomplished what took me 10 years to accomplish. So,
well, Jake, in all fairness, you have the same issue that I have.
we're social retards.
No, I don't have that. But we're bearded weirdos.
Oh,
I was going to be nice. Thanks for
it
taking it to
doesn't
a
matter.
negative level.
I own it. I know I'm a weird motherfucker. So hey, I accept it. I'd rather be a weirdo than a boring normal human being. So
yeah,
Agreed.
Shot at James.
No, dude, I've dedicated my life
to
to being an educational historian. There's nothing normal about any choice I've ever made.
Whatever, nerd.
No, I'm that's true. I'm that too. I'll own that.
Normal, nerdy James.
I am both a nerd and a geek. I can walk in both worlds. I'm like Ghost Rider.
We really need to get to the topic of this.
No, we
episode.
don't.
That's just because you don't want to tell your story. You got
No, I'll tell my story.
You got a couple of good ones. I was only thinking of one, Chad. You've got a couple.
Oh yeah.
Holy
I don't. And you know what's funny is I don't think you're thinking of the one that I'm going to talk about.
In all fairness, the best part about this is even before we tell the topic, let me just say, do you think maybe that's a Chad issue though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing this at all. Yeah, I have a tendency to make people angry at me, and I don't want that. The last thing I ever want to happen.
I have the ability to make humans awkward. So hey, I don't even try.
There you go.
Usually it's just usually all it takes with me is, "Hi, I'm Jake." That's it.
So here, what I was going to say is this. Actually, I forgot completely what I was going to say. Our topic. That's right. Getting back to the topic. Jake, great convention friend. Get to see you a couple times or at least once a year. Always have a good time. You're such a supporter of the show, and I do appreciate you commenting, quote the Raven on YouTube. It means a lot to us. And you're actually the first person who listens to the show that when we decided we were going to do this, you were the first person I asked. Number two being Barbara. Sorry, she's chasing you, buddy. She's coming up like a bullet.
And it's all good. I'd rather be followed than being
behind.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yeah, but I will say though, I would bet a lot of people know you and they don't even know that they know you.
Oh, I have people who come up to me. Can I see your mini seat?
Yeah,
motherfucker. They only want me for him.
Hey, imagine them only hitting on you because they think you're going to introduce them to the celebrities. Anyway, so what Jake's idea was when he picked was that he's like, Jake, come on the show. He's like, yeah, I'd love to do it. You get to pick the topic. He goes, what? I said, pick the topic. And about a week ago, you finally told us what it is. So please,
I told you about 3 weeks ago, but I guess
it doesn't matter. Just go along with the timeline. So tell us about our topic that you picked.
We're doing worst celebrity encounters.
The worst celebrity encounters. Now, I want to say real quick, because I actually like my job, and I'm not going to sit here and shit on celebrities, because I'm actually going to tell you the truth. 80-90% of them are absolutely a delight, or at least normal, and are not an issue. It's maybe less than 10% that are ever, oh my goodness, I hope I never have to talk to you again. What?
No.
That's my experience from doing things.
I know you are. I'm kind of putting you in a little bit of a pickle, but we all have those stories.
But that's okay. I will tell one. I'm going to actually out somebody. I will tell them.
All right.
So who wants to go first? Chad? You have several.
Yeah, you said you had more than one, Chad. Why don't you kick us off? Now let's all stare at Chad.
No, mine is kind of what gave me a bad taste in doing panels. It was my first time at Scarefest. It was my first time paneling at Scarefest. Joe had hooked me up and was letting me do some panels, and I got the Christine panel.
I was there.
And, oh, you were?
I was. Yes. I was
so
the one who I asked Bill, why does she look orange?
oh, yeah.
And he was like, it's just the lights. And it is.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that. I apologize because I was mostly just completely shattered by that experience. But Malcolm Denary and Stephen Tash are probably my worst celebrity encounter I've ever had. You know, I had planned this panel out like at length. I had a full list of notes. I studied. I listened to audio commentaries. I did all kinds of research because I was ready to go. And I get there and I talk to Malcolm and Steven beforehand, and I'm like, "Hey, is it okay?" Like with Malcolm, he was on a Mel Brooks. He was on Men in Tights. He had a brief part in Men in Tights. I was like, "I know you only had a brief part, but I was curious if you had Mel Brooks stories." He goes, "Oh yeah, man, you can ask me that." And they both said, "Oh, by the way, we don't want any people from the audience answering questions until 25 minutes in." And I'm like, okay. And then
real quick, which character was he?
Malcolm was Moochie.
Okay.
And Stephen Tash, who was also mostly known for one of the opening scenes in Ghostbusters. He was the one Bill Murray was electrocuting.
It's pissing me off.
Yeah, I was gonna
$5.
I said I was gonna talk to him about that. He goes, "Oh yeah, man, I love talking about that." And then they absolutely, what's the word? Gaslit. No, they completely just shit on me the entire time I was there. And Joe said it went fine. I honestly don't remember 1 ounce of it.
I don't recall. I didn't get that vibe from it. But
well, like, I swear I don't remember it.
Well, like
bad.
I asked Malcolm about Men in Tights. He goes, "Yeah, I worked on that. I don't have a lot of stories." Even though before we even start, he goes, "Oh man, I got some. I'll talk about that." And Steven would not talk about Ghostbusters.
Chad, I have no recollection of being in the audience. Was I?
Yeah, you were there, and your wife was there.
Really?
Yeah, James was doing another panel. He wasn't there, but yeah, you were there, and you told me you were. After I left, I was completely devastated by talking to those two, and it made me not want to do panels.
Well, the good thing is I don't remember, so it couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, you told me it wasn't that bad,
It couldn't have been that bad.
I didn't think it was.
But everything that I had talked to them prior, and I waited the 25 minutes like they told me to. I timed it, and they were just outwardly hostile with me from the get-go. And I'm like, I was just wanting to talk about movies with you guys because Stephen Tash, Malcolm had both have an eclectic career in acting. They just had minor roles in everyone. But yeah, I didn't get anything out of them that I wanted to get out of them. They were just completely just. I did the research. I talked to them ahead of time, going, "Hey guys, can we talk about this? Can we talk about that?" And they're, "Oh man, you can talk to us about anything. We can go all day." And they did it.
Jake, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I have 3 stories and a couple dishonorable mentions I can just breeze through.
Well, we'll do do the first 2, and then we'll come back. We'll kind of do a little round.
Okay.
Unless you want to just blow all your wad at once.
I'll do, okay. I will say that women love him, but when I meet a celebrity, it's one of 3 reasons. 1, I genuinely like him. 2, for a completionist, for a poster.
Because we are sick.
Huh?
Because we have a sickness.
Yeah. Or just out of pure, unadulterated spite. And I met this one to spite all the ladies. And it was Jason Momoa.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yes. That's why every time if anybody praises him, I always say he's a fucking asshole. At least to me he was. So I met him at the con that shall remain nameless. And So nobody in line, just him. This was way before Aquaman. And I go up to him. I pay his handler the $40 for the autographs. I go up, I approach him. I go, so Mr. Momoa, just wondering, in the book, Daenerys is romanced by Drogo. Okay. In the show, not so much. Do you know how they came about that? And he just goes, I don't know. We shot it both times. And then he looks at his desk. Are you going to buy something, kid? I'm like, what the fuck? Well, first of all, I just paid your handler. So yes. And I go, okay, fine. Is this you as Drogo? And he goes, yes. And I go, okay, can you make it out to Jake? He just signs his name. I was like, could you make it out to Jake? And he goes, ugh. Here. And I'm like, thanks.
That's a good.
And I'm like, and now keep in mind, nobody was in line, by the way. And I'm like, are you going to buy something, kid? What the hell? It rubbed me the wrong way. I still have not seen Aquaman or anything else he's been in since then. Like every time when I look at him, I'm like, that prick.
And we always hear like how nice of a guy he is.
Oh yeah, he's a really nice guy if you're a very attractive woman, but I'm not one. So
well, you could be. Don't you sell yourself short?
You're not working hard enough.
Oh, believe me, I work hard enough.
She works hard for the money.
They just call it trying too hard. But anyway,
so hard.
So, but I'll do another one real quick.
Please.
This one, I'm sure I'm not the only one, because Lord knows I've heard it numerous times. William Shatner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is so funny. 2 out
I've
of
told
the
you
three
this.
bonehead. No, 2 out of the 3 boneheads have a Shatner story.
Okay.
One of us doesn't, and it's good. It always cracks. I always use this as an example. Please, Jake, go ahead. I'm just happy you did it.
So remember how I told you there's an amendum to my Stan Lee story, right? Okay. So I thought, hey, I think I got something here. I'll have all the celebrities hold him. Okay, in the photos. Okay, cool. All right. So I paid for a William Shatner photo op. I go up to him, nervous as hell. This is literally my second con, so it's William Shatner, right?
Yeah.
And I go up to hi, Mr. Shatner, would you hold my Cthulhu for the pic? And he just looks at me and he goes, get that fucking thing away from me, nerd. And I'm like,
I'm sorry, Jay. I'm sorry.
No, it's a
great story.
Oh, hang on. And if you look at my Facebook page, I have the photo. You see it in my face, like holding the Twilight Zone figure I had him sign, and I'm like, And so I take the pic. As I'm walking away, I turn my head and I yell, Nimoy would have held him. And I walked away. Nimoy.
Yeah, we know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
Who he is.
Jay? Okay, well, I mean,
and probably Nimoy probably would have. You're right.
It would have burned. It would have burned. It would have burned more if he would have said Takai.
Well,
yeah.
You gotta understand also the con that shall remain nameless 2013. It almost turned into a full-scale riot. So I was exhausted.
I remember in Louisville.
Yeah. There's a damn good reason why I refer to it as the con that shall remain nameless. Yeah. And so but that happens when you put 2,000 people in a room that can only hold 600. But none of my business.
All right, but do either one of you all want to tell your Shatner story real quick to go along with Jags?
I
You
mean,
both have one, don't you? I know Chad does.
I have one. I mean, it's not really fan related though.
That's okay.
But I used to do my background's in media. And during my college years, I got a job doing horse shows. I would go all across the country, not the country, but the eastern region, taping horse shows where, because rich people wanted to see their horses and how they did it, walking around in a circle. And William Shatner is a huge horse person, and he was one of our clients. And usually they gave that to other people, but because I was new. But they said, "Look, Chad, we need you to do the Shatner's horse." I'm like, "Okay."
They had you do Shatner's horse? Nice.
Yeah, they did.
Nah.
I wasn't bald then either, so stuff got stuck in there.
Yeah.
But no. So I had this. I was. The whole point is you're on a high end. You're on a high level of the arena, and your camera's pointed kind of at a almost straight down at the arena, at the floor, and you have to follow the horse in a circle the whole time. I mean, you're basically doing that for about 4 hours a day, just constant 360 with your shoulder. And so anyway, I was doing the circle, and something happened. I got distracted by another coworker, and the next thing you knew, my camera was not on Shatner's horse anymore.
Whoops.
So I am trying desperately to find him in the circle where he's at, because there's like 8 horses going around in a circle doing their thing. I finally find it, but it took me a while. Needless to say, I gave them, this was before DVDs, this was VHS tape. So I gave them the VHS tape, and I heard afterwards that Shatner was not too pleasant about my experience. So yeah, it was I was in the area when he was going off. And I could not go anywhere near him.
So, well, fuck him and the horse he rode in.
So yeah, that's my experience with Shatner.
James, was he rude to you or just unfriendly?
No. Actually, he was perfectly polite to me. What I did realize was, so when I met him, it was the 40th anniversary of Star Trek. And it was Nimoy was there and everything, and my wife got me tickets. It was our first anniversary. And what I realized is he is direct. And so, for instance, we were doing the photo op thing. And this was the first this was actually the first purely Star Trek convention back when Creation ran them, if they were official Star Trek conventions. So it was in Chicago. And I was, and so we were doing the photo ops.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the line stopped moving. And I just hear this guy come out going, and he signaled somebody else. And he says, "Hey, Bill's not happy." And basically what it was people were like, you go in for the photo op, and because of course, and I'm not knocking Creation, it's a business, right? They had oversold tickets though. Like they had only scheduled him for about 2.5 hours of photo ops the whole weekend. It was an hour session, half hour the last day. And that was reserved for makeups. And literally the I don't know if Creation used volunteers. I don't know their model at that time. I don't know their model now. Doesn't matter. But whoever was doing it wasn't actually doing it. They were just letting people slowly wander in, and they weren't saying, "Hey, hit that mark, let's get this photo." And he was upset. And the reason he was upset was, of course, that meant he wasn't back at his table when he was supposed to sign. And so once I overheard the conversation, I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. And so, but in my mind, I thought, man, I'm gonna get in there, and he's not going to be happy. And no, that actually wasn't the case. He was absolutely polite to my wife and me. I was doing the full nerd thing. I was in the Star Trek uniform. My wife surprised me. She got one, so the photo is both of us in Star Trek uniform standing behind him. Absolutely nice to us during that time. But just overhearing the conversation. I'm like, there's not a doubt in my mind, somebody got chewed that day.
I got a copy of that picture, and I will not tell you what I do with it.
He masturbates
too. The sad part is you ripped off my wife, and if you were going to pick one of us, it should be Bill. But if you were going to pick two of us, Chad, it should be my wife and Bill.
Well, and everybody has a Bill Shatner story except me. Like
Hey, no, he was.
I don't
said,
even,
absolutely nice to me.
I wasn't even
Absolutely
hearing
nice.
him yell. I mean, he was very nice to me, and it kind of,
Well, and everything I heard was from the handler that was coming out and
yeah.
signal.
But
So
I know, to Jake's point, it's kind of like a dean I used to work for. Always good to me, but I know every horror story you're going to tell me is true because I witnessed it for other people.
yeah. Like
So
there's not a doubt in my mind. Like none of what was said makes me go, "Oh no, I've got to defend him here." No, I believe it.
yeah, I believe
It
everything
just
they
wasn't my
say.
experience with him, but
That's
no,
just
I've
my experience.
I've seen it happen.
There's another one, and I won't tell all of it, and I'll probably be on a panel with him, and he's not going to pay any attention to this. So, but he is infamous for being rude, and he's been rude to me before. And then some people were commenting about him at this last Scarefest and how he wasn't the most warmest. But it's Tom Savini.
I've never had a problem with him.
He,
I've heard the stories. I know it's like a coin flip with him,
it's a coin flip. Yeah.
but I mean, now granted, he does have the photo that I have of him holding Mini C. You can just see it on his face, like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah. Right. And
But
but that's, I mean, honestly, if I'd never met you before and didn't know anything about it, I'd have had the same thing. I'd have been like, give me the $40. What the fuck is this shit?
yeah. I mean, he was very approachable to me. He was really cool with me. But yeah, I've heard like stories of him. It literally is a coin flip with Savini. He knows he's a prick though. So
I watched the documentary about him, and I really enjoyed it, and I think I understood him a little bit more after watching it, just a little bit as next time. But people were complaining at Scarefest, or I saw some on the boards, and I think I posted. I was like, I don't know. I did 3 panels with him, and let me tell you, that was his best behavior.
I mean, he was really cool at the panels.
He was. Now,
ones
did
that
he
I saw anyway.
He was great, but did he almost knock people down getting out of that panel back to yeah, but he get asked the same shit every time. I can't imagine it gets a little bit boring. So
Yeah.
I just saw him. I witnessed him do something in Chicago at a Fangoria Weekend of Horrors, once again creation, same hotel that they used to have it. James is talking about. It was really great. It was a fantastic convention, but there's a little boy with all of his books coming up, and a 20-year-old geek that pay their money, blah, 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 blah. But when you're really small and impressionable and you've got the books, take the time. You're about to make a memory, whether that be negative or positive, for the rest of that kid's life.
I can kind of see that.
Whether it be negative or positive. And let me tell you, I saw negative. Because that kid was shy as hell. His mom was trying to talk to him. I don't know. Just bothered me for so many years. It bothered me so much I looked at the work different. So I still love him as Sex Machine. He's still cool.
Yeah, well, yeah, no. Listen, it's the same thing.
He's still in Dawn of the Dead. I mean, it's just weird.
But I've said this before, and I say about the same thing. Right? Separate the art from the artist. There's some people that you just have to do it.
I know. And by the way, like I said, completely as cordial to me as possible this year. Wasn't an issue. I've seen stuff before, heard things before, been rude to me before. Wasn't an issue this year. It was on his best behavior. I just know that I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I had a friend who met him, asked him, what's the best school to go to for learning makeup? Mine. Well, I can't afford yours. And he recommended, nope, it's mine. It was like,
okay, I kind of get that, Jake.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that too. But I mean,
I get that. What's the best podcast to listen to? Well, live, laugh, learn.
Well, no, one of my favorite, and this is I've never had a negative experience with him. One of my favorite responses, though, being asked a similar question, that was Bruce Campbell when he was signing his books, and somebody said, "How do you break into film?" And he just literally went, "1999. It's in here." I was like, "Okay."
He's one of my dishonorable mentions.
Oh well, you good. We'll have a story then.
Yeah,
go ahead.
That's another one. Go ahead. Who has the next one? Who's
I guess I should go. I haven't done
Yeah.
one yet. And I think I'm going to tell a story that I don't know if I've ever told the other boneheads. I've got, and nobody's
he's
going
come
to.
out to us every fucking season. Why does he think this is going to be new?
No. It's not about that. I know I'm running down a cold iron trail on that path. No. So my first convention ever, I was probably about 13, 14.
Mhm.
And I had begged because Walter Koenig was going to be there. I love Walter Koenig. I still argue Walter Koenig's autobiography is one of the best autobiographies.
You cannot say Walter Koenig without bringing up the man's autobiography.
Dude, if you read it, you'd understand. It's
If
great.
I could read.
I know. I was looking for an audio book, but then I remember you don't speak English either. Anyway,
Not good.
so the first convention I went to, it had Walter Koenig. The idea was a general science science fiction convention. It had one of the early Power Rangers. I can't even remember who it was. It was, I mean, Power Rangers was in its first or second American season, so I don't know. David Prowse, Star Wars, and then the other guests, they wanted to have somebody from Lost in Space, and he recently died, and I don't want to besmirch the dead, but it was Mark Goddard.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark Goddard was there, and here's the thing: it's why it was it wasn't like a bad experience. It was just me sitting there going, "Read the room, buddy," because Mark Goddard, they did the panels, they got up on stage and talked, and it was great. Walter Koenig had some stories. He talked about Babylon 5, which was on the air at the time, all that stuff. And then Mark Goddard got up, and I think he was like the second or third panel. And he began by saying, and some other people that were there with me said he may have had a few. Or something was off with him.
Now, who did he play in Lost in Space? Did he play the robot?
Major Don West.
He was West.
Oh, I couldn't, honest to God, I couldn't remember.
Matt LeBlanc.
Yeah, he's Matt LeBlanc, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
Thank you, Chad.
I still say that movie is good. It gets too much hate.
So I watched it when it came out, Jake, in the 90s at the theater because I'm old and didn't remember hating it and have never returned. So maybe someday.
I know.
Any movie with Gary Oldman as a villain, I
agree. Actually, I will admit it does get too much hate. Now, it may not be your thing, but it deserves more credit than it gets. But anyway, he got on stage and he immediately began with, and keep in mind the audience there, like there's some Lost in Space people, but it's mainly Star Trek and Star Wars fans. And he began with, I mean, Star Trek's okay at everything, and Star Wars if you like fantasy stuff, but Lost in, and then he just started going off on how everybody else was wrong and just like condescending, going, I mean, I just don't get it why Star Trek gets all the attention and why they have movies, and he just kept going. And you could feel the goodwill in the room going, oh yeah, hey, he did some stuff and he's in Westerns too. And then all of a sudden it just slowly just kept getting worse. And I was like, man, like I had watched Lost in Space because it used to be on USA all the time when I was a kid, but my interest just, even at 12, 13, just started to decline rapidly. It was like, oh man, come on. Come on.
Watched it for Jonathan Harris. There was one reason, that and the robot. You wanted him to say, you can tinkering, clinkering, cling, cling, cling. You wanted the iterate of the.
That was it. I mean, no, I agree. But I was like, oh, no. And then by the end of it, like I've got his autograph somewhere. But I don't have it out. I don't have, because all I can think is every time I look at it, I'm like, dude, just read the room. Like, yeah, it's cool. You can be proud of what you're in. And that's what I would have went. Yeah, tell me some Lost in Space stories. Talk about Jonathan Harris. Don't spend your 50 minutes telling me about how wrong I am, because I also like Star Trek and Star Wars and other science fiction shows. Like, yeah, tell me some Lost in Space stories and talk about, if you want to say Jonathan Harris is a jerk, cool. That'll be a great story. I'll listen. It's fine. Don't smash everybody else. As somebody online said the other day, don't yuck my yum, right?
He's still going.
I'm sorry, Joe. I'll shut up. No, go ahead.
I would have yelled, well, what do you think about Space Rangers? Look it up, folks.
All right. Is it Jake's turn again?
So this is probably going to break Brandon's heart, but then I never thought my experience with Shatner would ever get topped. until I met Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh, really? That doesn't shock.
Yes.
I've also heard horrible things about Molly Ringwald.
I don't know about that, but
I don't
hey,
either. I've never met either one of them.
she's on my list to meet her because she was in the stands. So
Right.
I'll gladly meet her. But so okay, when I was my intentions, Weird Science, one of my favorite scenes, it always cheers me up, is the bar scene where he's drunk and he's going, Fats, man, let me tell you my story, man. And when I was going to meet him, I had the intentions of getting 2 autographs, one for me and one for my friend who was a diehard Breakfast Club fan, right? So I thought I'll get him his autograph for Christmas, right? And when I was there, I had the image in my head that I wanted, that image of him with the pimp hat on and the cigar in his mouth. That's what I was hoping he had, right?
Yeah.
So I go up to his table and I look over everything, and he doesn't have that image. And I was like, damn. So I look at him, I go, I'll be right back. And I go around the vendors to see if anyone has that image, right? So I didn't find one, but I said, okay, fine, I'll just get me a picture of him with Wyatt, and someday I'll see him. So I'll never forget this. He's behind the counter, his table, legs propped up, reading a newspaper. And I know the images I want. I go, Anthony, $100 in hand, because his autograph is $50 per signature, right? And I'm like, Anthony, hello? And he's just continuing to read his newspaper. I'm like, I'm ready. I know what I want. And he's just reading his newspaper. I'm like, I go up, hello? Continues reading his newspaper. 2 other couples come up. He immediately springs up, goes back up, takes the money, blah, 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 even asks me to take the photo for him. Goes right back behind the counter, props his legs up, back to his newspaper. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? What the hell? I'm trying to give you money. I mean, and eventually I just said, fuck this. He's not getting my money. I don't give a shit. I'll get my friend an action figure or something instead for I was like,
I don't know why you would have even waited around for one. I would have been once and it'd have been like, fuck you and fuck the fucking fuck. There's actually, my kid watches a show called Big City Greens. There's a whole episode about this. It's about a corn dog vendor that picks one fat fan out of every game not to sell to.
Well, I didn't want to cause a scene for one major reason. Right next to him was Joe Bob and Darcy the mail girl.
Oh yeah. Well, Joe Bob, I've never got to meet Darcy, but Joe Bob,
she's a sweetheart.
Is just a joy.
If he came 1 year later, in 2019, she would have been with him. There at the time when he came, he had the fame, but Darcy was just the mail lady. Nobody gave a shit about the mail lady. Now, dear God, it's
she's
like
almost more popular. You know, she was going to do the show and backed out. I don't know if I've actually told that.
You told me.
Yeah, and by backed out, she was like set because I get it. I'm assuming there's lots of her part, and she has to be very particular about who she talks to. I get that.
Oh, not really. She's really approachable, and she really.
Well, no, I'm talking about with her past and stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of podcasts that just want to talk about that. I actually, reason I was like, well, let's just talk about your cosplay. That's great. You just come on and do that. Yes. And then in the middle of COVID, and then she couldn't get back, and then she did. And honestly, you could watch, like you were talking about, just the career shoot up. I'm sorry.
Well, you also got to take into account with her, don't take it personally, because at the beginning of her career, and she talks about this all the time, like she's just overwhelmed with her newfound popularity. Like she told a story just recently, that small bit part that she had in Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that movie or if it was something else, but she tells the story that she was so nervous that she actually would punch herself in the face to get herself a black eye so that they wouldn't put her in the movie because she was that she's that self-conscious.
Yeah.
And so I can only imagine because at the time when you told me around that time frame, she probably that probably was the case. But ask her again. I'm sure she'll probably be game.
Well, if I ever meet her, I will. That's how most of these. It's either cold calls or we've met them at conventions, and then we've interviewed, and some people you just kind of hit it off. And
speaking of which, Brandon, we would really like Joe Bob and Darcy to be at Scarefest this year.
If you think Brandon Griffith is listening to this right now, you've got another thing coming. I would be shocked.
I'm sure.
But the only time he listened is when Adrian told him when Adrian told him that I made a comment about the fact that he looked like Rick Moranis and Rosie O'Donnell had a baby.
According to Nicole, that's what won her over. So in fact, Darcy has a crush on Rick Moranis, right? And I told that to Nicole one time, and Nicole immediately chimed in, "That hussy better stay away from my man." I was like,
who doesn't have a crush on Rick Moranis
or Brandon Griffith?
Silence.
Brandon Griffith. All right, we're getting dead air. So
James, I got to do a sidetrack because when James mentioned Mark Goddard, I looked him up. I gotta see a movie that he's in that I didn't hear of till just now called Blue Sunshine. Have any of y'all heard of this movie?
No,
it didn't come up during his panel.
Oh my God, it sounds amazing. It's about a detective who's discovering a bizarre series, who's investigating a bizarre series of murders where the people start going bald and then become homicidal maniacs. Guess what they link it to?
All of us bald people are homicidal maniacs. Damn it. Anyway,
they link it to a rare form of LSD called Blue Sunshine. It's an anti-drug movie, guys.
Blue Sunshine on my shoulder.
I learned enough from Blue Boy on Dragnet to know I don't want to do that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Actually, I can't do anything that involves snorting or needles or I'm really, really like I can't do it. I just it's a weakness for me, Joe. I know, Joe. You're into the drug culture.
You're doing the wrong stuff, man. It's in an eyedropper and you drop it in the eye. I don't know anything about that. I'm sorry.
I also can't do that. Actually, I don't use eye drops either. I really just have I want to live in a bubble. But
all right, let's do a couple more stories and finish it up. So, Chad, you want to tell your other one?
Yeah, I'm not going to do one of them because it's a big draw for this year, and I don't.
I don't think it. But to me, it's not a negative story. It was just aggravating to you. It
wasn't aggravating. It just kind of.
It was slightly aggravating to you.
It wasn't. You're using the wrong term though. It wasn't aggravating. It was more of a. It was more devastating because I didn't mean any harm by it, and he was annoyed by what I was doing, and I did not intend it that way. It wasn't.
I don't think he was annoyed. I think he was drunk and fucking with everybody.
Well, still, it doesn't matter. But I'm not going to go that
way. That pretty much sums up everybody at Scarefest.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind telling it because I've told people before. I thought it was a positive.
Yeah.
So if you don't want me to tell it, I won't.
I don't care. I just don't want to say it because I don't want to ruin anybody. I don't want to.
Well, okay, Matthew Lillard. I've read things before, but I've only seen him be amazing with fans.
Yeah,
he was cool with me when I met him.
He and Skeet Ulrich were both very nice. They're two totally different though. Skeet's more chill. Matthew Lillard is fucking like me on cocaine.
They're just like they are on the movies.
Yeah. In that sense. So what happened was we were doing this panel, and there are a lot of people in there. They're two good looking guys, and it was a Friday night panel, as I recall, Chad. And
I can't remember the date.
It was Friday night, and those are usually not that packed. I remember because specifically, I'll tell the second part of the story. The first part's with Chad. Chad, they had previous owners of Scarefest used to provide more bourbon and alcohol, and They had been maybe nipping. That be accurate, Chad?
Yep.
And they were having a good time. And we started their Q&A, and Matthew kind of took it over into the audience. Do you want to go ahead and
That's
tell
what he
them?
does.
No, I mean, no, it was just at the time, my whole gig was I would take the microphone and run it around the room because our thinking was a lot of the people who were in the audience, because before it would just you had to leave your seat, walk into the middle of this large room and stand in front of everybody and talk on a microphone.
Yeah.
And it was our thinking that that wouldn't get a big draw. So I would be the goofy guy walking around, handing people the microphone to get more interaction. And it was working. And at least I thought it was.
It always worked. You were the
Yeah,
best
it
mic
always
guy.
worked.
Yeah, it always worked.
And well, Matthew Lillard took over the room and was running around the room, and I was like, well, what do I do? And I started following him around, and then he kind of joked, and I raced because he was mentioning about it being a race. I was like, oh, he's playing with me. So I raced to the next person, and he got really hostile towards me about what is my deal? What am I doing? And it was kind of devastating to me because I was just like, oh man, I thought I was doing something he wanted to do, which is usually what I get in trouble with is I read the room wrong.
He's kind of like he's Matthew Lillard, from what I've seen, he's kind of like Dee Snider and Michael Rooker. He basically runs the panel.
And
Dee Snider-
that's the horror story I was going to talk about with Dee Snider.
Dee Snider left me on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
you did.
and then-
It was the best moderation I've ever seen from you, man.
And that was the guys. I think that was the last year I volunteered too, and it wasn't because of that. It was just
He just left me on. And well, I don't know if it's the best moderating I ever done. I know you're being a smartass, but I will say, one of the easiest gigs I've ever done. I
No,
remember he said, "I'm going to sit. I don't want to sit down." I go, well, okay, I'll sit down. He goes, "You sit down," and then he jumped off stage and started doing the Q&A run. He
Yeah.
needed me like he needed a hole in the head.
no.
Booker, on the other hand, batshit nuts. Things got broke. I got stabbed with a sword, but one of the best experiences of my professional moderating life was Michael Rooker at LexCon. So I know we were supposed to be talking about negative. If people were watching it thinking that it was scary a couple of times, I wouldn't say it's scary, but when he threw something and knocked a whole part out of the chandelier in the Regency room at the Hyatt, yeah, it barely just missed the audience members. Yeah. You didn't know what was going to happen next. When someone walked in late and he grabbed their sword, their cosplaying, and then proceeded to stab me with it on stage. Yeah, didn't know it was going to happen. But amazing. I just had the best time with Rooker. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's kind of funny. Dean Snyder was actually the one I was going to talk about, how he just completely obliterated me again for the microphone running. And that one was not like Lillard. He absolutely was clearly annoyed by me. And I still can't listen to Twisted Sister.
Oddly
It's
enough,
cool.
I listen to them more now.
No. Every time I hear "come on here," feel the noise, I turn the radio instantly because I'm like, nope.
If you ever want to see something surreal, listen to his cover of "Oh Come All Ye Faithful." It's literally he's singing "Oh Come All Ye Faithful" to "We're Not Going to Take It."
Yeah.
And it works. It's like, what the fuck?
Listen, I mean, is it better than his cover of Leader of the Pack? Because there's a classic.
Well, in the interest of time, we got to finish our stories. Jake, do you want to tell? Did you say you had one or two more?
I have I'll just do some dishonorable mentions in a quick sentence with them. Goldberg pushed me into a vendor booth.
Jesus.
Yeah. Move it, nerd. I'm like, what the hell? That's how I found out I was taller than him. And I was like, what? Bruce Campbell, I've met him twice. Not impressed.
No, he's not. He's great on the stage.
He has this, he knows
He is a superstar of horror.
He knows that he is a superstar of horror. He knows his fans love him, and he knows that no matter what he says, they're going to think of it like I got roasted by Don Rickles, and
Yeah.
it's not the case at all. He's just doing it because he can.
Mhm.
Especially a friend of mine who goes to Scarefest a lot, like he had this photo that he had signed by Ted Raimi, and he goes, I'm going to sign my name over his. And he goes, I'd prefer if you didn't. Son of a bitch, he did. I was like, oh, you are so lucky that wasn't me. I would have. But like I said, not impressed with him. The other one, I'm not going to elaborate because there's a very good possibility she's coming back.
Mhm.
But Amanda Burse.
Oh, she corrected me on stage.
I'll just say this.
But in her defense, I needed to be corrected. So I don't have a bad story.
When I met her, I never saw Fright Night, right? So I literally saw.
Really? You
Fright
never
Night.
seen Fright Night before you met her?
It never interested me. And so what I did, I saw Fright Night at the Kentucky Theater that year.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, okay, well, they're here, so I might as well get their autographs, right? And I go up to her and I just said, just curious, how old would you say your character was? I don't know, 17-ish. I was like, you guys were Twilight before Twilight was a thing. She goes, it took you 30 years to watch this damn movie, and that is your takeaway? I'm like, okay. And
I
yeah.
would have said the same damn thing.
Yeah.
All you're doing is making me like her more.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, more power to him.
I don't have a negative experience with is it William Ragsdale
Yeah.
or Amanda Bierce? But me and Joe were prepping the panel, and I don't know if Joe even remembers this. We were talking to them, and it was kind of like a real chat. And I'm like, oh, this is going great. I can't believe I'm talking to William Ragsdale. I loved Herman's Head, and I was a fan of Amanda Bierce. And then William Ragsdale just stopped it and said, guys, I think we should start the show now.
William Ragsdale.
I'm like, oh shit.
I don't remember that because
he didn't really want to talk to us. He wanted to get this. I'm like, okay, so I backed away slowly.
I don't remember it that way. I remember them being fairly nice.
No, they were nice.
I don't remember one way or the other. And then I remember Tom Holland and I hit it off on the phone.
Yeah.
Remember, because we called Tom and he had him in there. And then and what I take, of course, I'm taking egocentric bastard I am. I'm taking away from that because he was trying to remember Uncle Forey, Forrest J. Ackerman. Chad, am I remembering this right? And he was trying to say it, and he goes, "Oh, Joe, And we were just talking on the phone, and I just knew, like, it's Uncle Forey. And he's like, "Yeah, Joe," and I was like, "Oh, yeah." I still never met son.
No, and my experience was not bad. It was just like,
I thought Angus that year.
Yeah.
I never met Angus. Remember, Angus couldn't make it to the
he was sick.
And he called in, and it was cool. Yeah.
And then 3 weeks later, he died. And I was like, damn, because he was the only person I wanted to meet from Phantasm, and I was like, damn. But which sucks because everything I've seen and all the stories I've heard, I heard he was one of the nicest human beings on the planet.
Same thing. It's funny. God. Oh, what's his name? I'm trying. The one with the ponytail and the shotgun. Character fan. Reggie. Reggie's wife works on the movies, and she sat next to me at the panel. And when Angus is on the phone talking, she leaned over to me. This is going to make what Jake just said funny. And she was like, "Don't worry, he's going to be fine." Sorry.
Funny thing about William Ragsdale, because I went up to him, I was like, you guys were oh God, what's the emotion movie that they Disney made?
Inside Out, yeah.
Inside Out, yeah. I was like, you guys were Inside Out before Inside Out was a thing. They owe you money. He goes, yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah, it's cool. I don't have a story one way or the other. It's funny Chad mentioned that. I don't even remember I remember her correcting me about her last name, and then one of them not knowing that they
rhymes with Hearst
too.
Rhymes with Hearst.
Hearst. Amanda Burse. Yeah. So, anybody got any others? Chad, James?
I mean,
No.
should we do a positive to wrap this up about a great interaction, or do we
Yeah,
just want
that's
to leave
fine
it
with me.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
the only one.
that's another show.
Well,
probably.
yeah, but let's do it this. I do want to say, Doyle von Frankenstein, hardest panel I ever did in my life. Not entirely his fault. He has a certain set of things that are wrong, but I was endeared to him slightly and didn't wanted to strangle him. Well, that because he could have killed me, and he just had guns. I mean, huge arms. Was that he loved kids, and when the kid in the front would talk to him, he would talk back. So it made it slightly the misery of doing 45 minutes. In fact, I think I cut it short. I couldn't take it. It made it a little bit easier, but that one was tough. I would never. I would have to go out of my way to do that again.
I was about to say
Because I don't want to talk about the negative. And in fact, the one I was talking about way earlier with Savini, my negative interactions happened before I was ever working on panel.
Yeah. Very similar. No, the only reason I thought positive, and I wanted to,
Yeah, please go ahead.
is
No,
I've got one positive, and I've never heard anybody say anything bad. And Jake, you may correct me if you have had an encounter with this individual, but it's because of my son. My son at the time was a huge fan of The Flash with Grant Gustin. But as soon as, of course, the John Wesley Shipp was on it as the father, and then later as the Flash, the original Flash, the Golden Age Flash, I was like, oh, he played the Flash when I was a kid. And when he was at, I guess, Lexington Comic Con,
Yeah,
my son, he had to go. He had to meet him because he loved him. He loved Grant Gustin's Flash. And he's like, yeah, he's in the Flash, and he was your Flash when you were a kid. And so I go, and my son was relatively little at the time, so much so that I had him on my shoulders. And I'm getting him through the con floor, and I get back to John Wesley Shipp, and there's a small line, but not too bad. And I get up, and I said, hey, this is my son. You're the first person he's ever been, Dad. I've got to meet this guy. And so John Wesley Shipp looks at my son and says, hey, bud, what's your name? My son freezes. Just absolutely, oh my God, the Flash is talking to me. And he just stopped. And I'm like, okay, his name's Silas and all that stuff. And he's completely nice. He keeps talking. And we're there about 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden, my son just screams, Silas, my name is Silas. And John Wesley Shipp goes, awesome, man. Gives him a high five, talks to him for about 3 or 4 minutes. And there is starting to be a line. And it was just one of those moments where I mean, I'd met other people before. I've got good stories. I've got fair to middling stories about meeting other people. But honestly, him just taking the time, I will never, ever. I'd have a hard time believing horrible stories about John Wesley Shipp after that.
I did a
Because-
panel with him in Huntington, and he was a mensch.
Yeah, I mean,
easy to talk to, easy to get along with.
Just he was great with my son when my son completely froze, and he completely, like, my son to this day remembers meeting him and says, Dad, he was just so good. He was nice to me. He was kind of like a superhero. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to debate you, because I'll be honest, if I was talking to somebody and they couldn't say their name for 2.5 minutes, I'd probably be worried about it.
Yeah.
But it was great. So I just wanted to say there are a lot of great people out there, and I would say John Wesley Shipp's a good example.
Chad and Jake.
Jake, you
Jake
want to
and
go? Or
Chad.
would you like me to go?
I'll tell my Rob Zombie story.
Okay.
Oh, I've heard.
Oh,
It's a
I
good
want a
one.
Rob Zombie story.
It's a good one. It's a good one. You and Peacock has a Dan Aykroyd story that is a fantastic. But go ahead, Jake.
So anybody who knows me knows I have this full theatrical size Halloween, Rob Zombie Halloween poster that I'm having signed by the entire cast, right? So he came to my town to do a concert with Marilyn Manson. And so only way I'm going to get his autograph, I shelled out the money. I did the VIP experience, and I go up to him. I roll up. It's also the worst interaction I've ever had, because I don't get starstruck much anymore.
Yeah.
For him, oh my God. So I was like, I could have asked him anything. And what do I ask him? Does baby do the laugh from 3 from Hell? And he goes, Anyway, so I roll out the poster, And he goes, "You've been busy." And I was like, let me see, let me see. He starts tapping on each one of the signatures and identifies them. And he goes, "Who do you have?" Oh, hang on. Okay, there we go. He goes, "Who do you have left?" I said, "Well, I have William Forsythe." He goes, "Doable, rare, but doable." Got that taken care of a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he was partying.
And he goes, "Who's the other one?" "Your wife." He goes, "Ooh, 1 second." So he takes the poster, he rolls it up, makes it all nice, and he goes, "Let's take a picture while this dries." He takes a picture and he goes, "1 second before you leave." So he takes the poster, he walks over to one of his minions and goes, "I want you to take this to Sherry. I don't care what the fuck she's doing. You tell her I sent you, and you tell her I said, sign this fucker, you fucker." And he goes, "Okay," takes it. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm getting the holy grail of horror autographs. Guy comes back 15 minutes later, looking. "You made me interrupt her while she was eating." I was like, "I didn't have you do anything. I am about it." So that's how I got Sherry Moon Zombie's signature for my Halloween poster. And now, thanks, 2 years later, I got William Forsythe, I got Lou Temple,
Mhm.
and then last year I got Clint Howard. And I have one last signature to go.
Hope it's
John
who's?
Carpenter.
Oh, no, I've met John twice.
Well, someday I'll get that, and then I'll finally be done chasing Rob Zombie's Halloween.
So why are you going to get John's on Rob Zombies?
It's still his IP.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm kind of
I'm with-
curious to see what John says. You know,
It says based off of a
I get it.
movie.
I get it.
Hold
Good
on,
luck
can
trying
I-
to get Deborah Hills.
Can I assume what John's going to say? Did he pay the autograph fee?
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I always say, everyone keeps saying that they blame Rob for making it all white trash, and it's like, he asked John Carpenter, "What do you want me to do with it?" And he said, "Make it your own." And that's exactly what he did. So
I actually don't have a problem with Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Halloween
I
Part
do.
2, I do.
2 is
Part
very
2,
unwatchable.
it gave Weird Al some screen time, but whatever.
So, positive experiences. So Chad.
Jake just kind of led me into mine. But I don't get starstruck. Mostly, there's only been a couple instances. One was Sam Raimi last year when Joe got me introduced to him, and I was absolutely just shaking in my boots, because I mean, the man's been an icon of mine my whole life.
Not
But
an asshole.
not an asshole. But one of the other people who's been an icon of mine my whole life is William Forsythe. And it's kind of funny. Joe, he was in Louisville at a convention. Joe didn't get to go because I think you were on call, if
I
I'm
had
not
work or
mistaken. He was
something.
working.
we had training because I couldn't go
Yeah.
either. It was when we were in training.
Yeah,
Was it
so
training or was it when wouldn't have been in March when we were advising? So
no, it
still when
doesn't
it was in Res Life?
It was in Res Life. We were
Yeah.
in lockdown training.
So me and Joe's
Oh,
wife
Res
went there. I am currently looking at an original theatrical promotional poster of Dick Tracy. William Forsythe, I mean, he's been in everything that I've loved. Even him as Al Capone in The Untouchables, I still think it's one of the best portrayals of Al Capone ever.
I thought that was De Niro.
No, so there was a syndicated version of The Untouchables in the early 90s,
Yep.
and he played Al Capone.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's amazing. But he also was flat topping Dick Tracy, and I'm like, I've got to. It's the only autograph I've ever really, really wanted it. So me and her went there, and I was fine with it. But as soon as we got up there, I fanboyed. I could not talk to him. as James was talking about his young son, here I am, a man in my late 20s, could not talk to William Forsythe. I just could not say 2 words to him. I could not come up with the words. And he got me talking, and we talked. And for some reason, the only thing that could come to my mind was his portrayal as the evil clown in Masters of Horror.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the clown laugh right there in front of me, and I almost peed myself because I was just so excited. And me and Joe's wife walked away, and I had an ear to ear grin, and she even went back and told Joe that I was absolutely starstruck. I mean, I could not stop smiling.
I can relate to that.
It's still one of the fondest memories I have of meeting a celebrity is William Forsythe.
It's kind of like when Kevin Conroy said, "I'm Batman" in his Batman voice.
Yeah, I wish I would have got to meet Kevin, but I didn't get that.
I got the privilege of sitting next to him twice doing panels, and he would come out and do the "I am the night, I am the," and I got it next to me twice or 3 times maybe. I don't know. I will say he was always a gentleman. He's always easy to interview. He's great with fans, but that's another one. There was no small talk. And between some of these panels are small talk before, there's small talk after. There was never small talk. He was going back. He was going to the table.
Yeah.
I guess I'm last. My favorite one ever. God, I've been so.
I know. I thought you were going to go with the go-to. I thought I knew it.
Well, hold on. I've been so lucky, Chad.
I know, but I thought there was a staple
of Romero.
Yeah.
It's just like, but I had trained for that moment.
Exactly.
I mean, I trained for it, not knowing I would do it. Still the best panel I ever did.
He was so friendly.
He was warm to me.
Yeah.
He was just.
I still regret not asking him if I could see through his glasses. But
well, I didn't ask him that, but I made him a promise I wouldn't ask him any zombie questions, and he said, yeah.
And we got and Joe asked a bunch of questions. I was sitting in the audience. I was captivated because there were so many things I didn't know about Romero at that time.
Yeah,
I remember.
So Jake, that's my favorite panel I've ever done. Is that one? Well, it's the one I think's best. I don't know what's best, but when people ask me, Jad's right. That's my go-to of. I transcended.
Yeah, and I thought Celebrity Encounters. I thought that because he basically fed you. I mean, he was giving you everything. He was talking to you.
We didn't know, but in retrospect, it's more interesting because we didn't know he was dying. You knew he was sick,
right?
We were around him when he was, you knew he wasn't well, but I didn't know that he was going to be dead in 6 months.
Right.
So clearly he probably knew.
Oh man, I have a Romero story, but it's too late to tell it. But
you can go ahead.
I tried to sell her my friend, or I tried to sell him my friend to make Creepshow 3.
Yeah.
And my friend did not know this. And she's just standing there going, "Jack, what the hell are you doing?" It's like, shut up. This is for the greater good. She can cook. She can clean. She's a twin. Her twin's a cunt. We can give her to King. And all you have to do is make Creepshow 3, please. And he goes, "I'm sure she's a nice girl, but I lost the rights to Creepshow 3 years ago. I couldn't make it even if I wanted to."
Yeah.
After we walked away, though, I felt this presence, and I turn around. My friend is like this. And I said, "What?" She goes, "What would you have done if he said yes?" I said, "Go home and wait for Creepshow 3 to come out."
Yeah.
He's like, And then a year later, I was like, "Well, you only would have had to live in Pittsburgh for a year." But whatever.
I do have one. I will end with one, if you guys don't mind, and I know the other boneheads agree. One before we go, one of the best fan encounters or great with fans who I don't hear enough about. And back to Rob Zombie, Tom Tolles was one of the nicest men I have ever met. And I didn't get a chance to interview him. I just got to spend, we did a Fangoria weekend of horror where Christy one time bought me a VIP package. Anyway, a couple of times he would remember your name. He is one of the nicest. And Sid was actually one of the nicest. But Tom Tolles, You
Yep.
guys remember Tom?
Oh yeah.
Oh no,
Oh,
my
yeah.
I don't hear that
He's
much
in
about
the-
him anymore. and
there's
it's
an
sad.
autograph over here from his brief appearance on Firefly because my wife loved it and literally went, "Oh, you're the Firefly guy." And he literally goes, "I very rarely hear that." Wasn't offended by that at all though, because it's, "Oh, you know me because of that work." And talked to my wife for probably 10 minutes about, "Oh, it should have been it should have been," because it was before Serenity got made.
He's in
And
one of my he's in
Yep.
one of my favorite Stuart Gordon films, Fortress.
Oh, love Fortress.
You and Chad, yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
I
James
love-
does too.
I like no, I mean it's no Highlander, but it's the second best Christopher Lambert franchise.
All
Ah.
right. Well, we hope you've all enjoyed this. That we're all really freaks of nature. chasing
Real
down
quick,
celebrities.
it's no gunman. There you go.
Go to
Jake,
your room, Chad.
I gotta say a big thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being our first, as we're trying this friends of the show kind of thing.
Oh,
And
thanks.
you're first.
Also-
Only took
busted,
only
you
took
busted
5
our
years.
cherry.
Also,
Oh, Ken's gonna be pissed at you.
Who?
Hmm?
Ken.
Oh, Ken is a celebrity.
yeah. Well, also by the way, I just want to say, and we did acknowledge it. We should have acknowledged this at the beginning of the show. You beat us multiple times at trivia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that
I mean,
doesn't
I
keep me from
cheat.
talking shit.
I wasn't there.
No, that's why we got as good, that's why we scored as good as we did, Chad. You weren't there.
Fuck you, you weren't
even
there.
had-
You weren't
even
there.
had- you even
And I
had
was
a,
handicapped by Mick Strawn, who didn't even remember the years of the movies he worked on.
Neither did RA.
And
They
neither
both
did
worked
RA.
on the same film,
They
and that
were
film
both
was a
in
trivia
Leatherface.
question, and they were screaming out the wrong answers, and both of them had different answers,
Different answers. They
and
were
none of them
both-
were on the options.
No.
hey, I didn't win that year either, so whatever.
Yeah, you came in second. Yeah. But you are amazing at trivia. You are a good friend, and I always look forward to seeing you at this and Mini C. We do appreciate you popping our cherry.
Well, thank you.
Ken's
our
gonna be
friend.
Ken's gonna keep being so mad.
You're under the assumption
Just-
he is now a big celebrity with an own
Uh,
show.
Yeah, multiple award nominated show now.
All right. Thank you so much. You want to say something, Jake?
I'll just say thanks for having me, and remember, what doesn't kill you disappoints me.
That's true. See you guys. It's been Bumphead. All right. I'm ending this, Jake. Have a good night, man.
You too, man. Later.